Call Brandon today at 813-917-1894.
And welcome back to Consumer Quarterback Show, always helping you understand your buying decisions, making you more street smart. We got Brandon Faust in the house. He's going to talk about Mold Solutions USA, his company, helping people throughout Tampa Bay and beyond with their the health impact that mold can create. We're going to talk with him in just a minute. Before we do, we'd like to feature our real estate listings live on air, help our sellers profit more. If you're selling properties, you're leaving money on the table if you're not listing with the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty, #1 real estate company in the world. Keller Williams, over 200,000 agents, and we are in the top 100 out of 25,000 real estate teams here in Tampa Bay. 8868 Indigo Trail. This is a hot property listing from Linda on our team. This is a great opportunity to own real estate here in Tampa Bay. Got 1,707 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bath. Gorgeous property here. Look at the beautiful finishings on the inside. Tile floorings, updated kitchen, granite countertops, beautiful home. 2-story townhome in Osprey Lakes. Gorgeous kitchen, his and her walk-in closets, large open floor plan, and easy commute to Tampa International, West Shore Malls, and the zoo, and of course Busch Gardens right there as well. 8868 Indigo Trail Loop, Riverview, Florida. One of our hot real estate listings from the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty. All right, we got 8711 Longboat Lane in Hudson, Florida. So you can bring your boat to this property. Great opportunity here to have that bay access. You've got property in Hudson that has a boat dock as well. You got a community boat ramp and boat dock. 8711 Longboat Lane in Hudson is one of our hot real estate listings here from the Platinum MVP team. Updated property, very low or no HOA fees here, and one of our properties that we have in Pasco County, 8711 Longboat Lane in beautiful Tampa Bay. You can see all of our listings at PlatinumMVPteam.kw.com. And we do have a lot of vacant land listings, so you can buy some dirt from us as well. About a dozen or so vacant land listings, 55 listings overall. And we are welcoming in now Brandon Faust. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be back in the studio.
Yeah, man. Good to have you. And you're helping folks out there. You know, mold is kind of one of those misnomers that people have. They, it actually to actually qualify it as mold and to know what it is, it has to go to a lab, right?
That's absolutely correct. The only person that can officially say that it's mold is the lab. Even a mold inspector has to actually sample it and then send it off. So it's not even the mold inspector. So it creates a little bit of an issue because, if you're seeing it, let's say you take a AC contractor and they go in and they're looking at what looks to be microbial or looks like mold. They can't officially say that. They can't say that it's mold, yet there is a high potential that it's causing a physical issue for the people living in the home.
They call it organic. They can call it organic growth,
suspect growth, organic growth. Whatever. There's different sort of ways of putting it. They're kind of indicating that it is the 4-letter word that nobody wants to hear, right?
Yeah.
It's the MOLD word, right?
Yeah.
So, it's a very interesting thing that that's really the only person that can say that's what it is. But when it comes down to it, you also have like it looks like a duck, it talks like a duck. Is it a duck? So a lot of people go, look, I have mold. If they're saying that, then it's like, okay, you're most likely right. That's probably what it is.
Yeah.
So the thing that I've run into in terms of making sure that people are actually really experiencing the best air quality they can in their home is looking at where are the common places, that mold is going to come up. And because, there's a source, there's always a source, and it has to do with water. So when it comes down to Florida, it's different than most of the states because in most states in the U.S., the highest the place that you're going to find mold springing up the most is broken pipes or the piping of the home, but that's not always the case here because you are surrounded by water. The humidity levels are over 60%, the majority of the year, except for maybe 3 months out of the year. But even then, in the home, the humidity levels are going to be higher. And then on top of that, you're using the AC system, and you're dealing with condensation, similar to, you have a cup with no ice in it and just water. It's not going to actually have condensation or dripping. But as soon as you put that ice in that cup, the temperature of the material drops, and you have water droplets forming, and that's why you have those coasters to protect your table because it's going to have condensation and dripping.
Right.
So same thing with an AC system. It's constantly going to be cold enough that the box is dripping wet. And then on top of that, the actual insulation in the AC system is now starting to grow microbial life. because of where there's water, there's life. So it gets into the AC system. It gets into the box that connects the what's called the air handler to the actual ducts throughout your attic. And that box is got porous material, and you have that hot air hitting the cold air, and you get saturation, you get condensation, you get growth. So I've had a number of clients, 2 people I can think of right off the bat just yesterday, that have had serious health ramifications, and they're trying to figure out where it's coming from. So, I just partnered with an AC contractor so that we can actually address that. So we're getting that going because it is so much a key part of the indoor air quality of the home is actually addressing the AC system and the ductwork as well. So we're going to be doing that as part of our servicing as well.
Right. And we're talking with Brandon Faust, Mold Solutions USA, here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. I'm your host, Brandon Rhymes. And when we talk about these situations with mold, you actually helped me personally with a situation at my home, treated the home, but then also we added in that secondary, kind of a secondary protection of the basically the system that's inside the air handler, I think it is.
That's
that what it is? And it's got the little bit of laser beams in there. How does that thing work?
Yeah, we'll shoot it out with laser beams.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. You have UV lights, right?
UV lights.
And
that's right.
but it's having that same effect. But that UV light hitting the microbial life destroys it. That's what you're trying to accomplish. And we've had it where there was a purifier in the plenum, but the AC does become overgrown with mold, even with the purifier in that box that you're talking about right above the air handler. But the thing that's missing is that you want to have a UV light next to your blower wheel. And the reason being is the blower wheel hits a temperature. It hits what you call dew point, similar to like if you go outside and there's water droplets on your car, right, and it's not raining. It's just the temperature of the material is cold enough that it's going to start getting water droplets on it. Right. So same type of thing with the blower wheel that's distributing that cold air throughout your house. It's hitting dew point, having water droplets on it, and it starts forming microbial growth, or otherwise known as mold, on your blower wheel. And that particular type of mold, it's pretty consistent. It comes back as a mold called cladosporium, and it is an allergenic mold. It leads to headaches, joint aches, respiratory issues, rashes, things along those lines. But you also have another mold that starts growing in the AC system, especially when it starts getting dirty and it has other molds on it. It's called Aspergillus penicillium. So Aspergillus does release a gas that's actually fairly toxic. So when it starts growing in that system, it can actually contaminate the entire house. And you have these little tiny particles that are, you can fit 10 mold spores on the tip of a hair. And the gas that it releases to protect its territory is even smaller. It's 1/3 the size of a mold spore.
Wow.
So you can actually get that entire toxic air impacting the home. So it's really crucial, if people are waking up congested with headaches, with joint aches, there is some sort of reaction that's occurring to being in their house.
Right.
So I had a similar situation when we went on vacation, or during the Christmas break with the kids, where I went into, we went down to Mexico. And, as soon as we walked into the hotel room, it hit me like Mike Tyson. It was like a serious, musty, moldy.
You could sense it.
Oh, absolutely. So, and of course, I looked into the AC system, and sure enough, it was like a petri dish, in that ductwork, right in the hotel room. And then I started moving furniture, and sure enough, there is microbial growth growing up the different items and furniture in the hotel room.
Wow.
Right? Like you could see the white film behind it. And it's like the high humidity coupled with the AC system. You get these 2 different molds growing, and you have this really nasty, musty smell. So I said, that's it. I can't take this room. And they did move me, right? And we went to a room that was better, but it still had a mustiness to it. But, it was like I wasn't going to – we were there, and there was no refund. So it was like, what are we going to do? So we were, vacationing with another family, and sure enough, they had the same situation right next to us. And by the time the vacation was over, every single one of us was sick by the time the vacation was over.
Wow.
Right? Headaches, joint aches, coughing, right? Mainly it was the congestion and the coughing and like small, slight fever.
Right.
Right? But obviously when you get back home, it's gone within a day or two.
Yeah.
So if you're exposing yourself to mold, it's going to tax the immune system.
Right.
So it's overworking. It's on
Yeah.
overtime trying to make sure that you're doing okay.
Yeah,
Right.
just what you need, right?
Right. So
Just what you need in your life, like a little bit of mold on vacation.
man, it's rough, right?
Yeah.
So, but you got to be aware of it. So if it's musty, it's moldy, but it's not always musty. Sometimes you can't even smell it,
Right.
And some people are more sensitive than others.
You've had those situations where, too, you've gotten referrals from doctors of, patients of theirs that have been sick. They didn't realize what was causing the sickness, and then they said, well, you might want to get your home checked. And then that's when they refer Mold Solutions.
Absolutely. So Mold Solutions is different in the sense that we are a health-centric mold remediation company. Like we are, and when I say that, I'm saying that we are aware of the health ramifications of mold at a higher level than most people. Obviously, we're not doctors. We are mold remediators. But when it comes to understanding what a mycotoxin is, which is basically the poisonous substance that mold releases to defend itself, right? Or the impact that a mold spore can have on the physical body in terms of a foreign invader, being inhaled or being breathed in, and then you can have a histamine release that creates, swelling or joint inflammation. Also the impact of, most people have heard of black mold, but they don't understand that actually the white mold, Aspergillus, is responsible for more fatalities than even black mold.
Wow.
Right? So the white mold is called Aspergillus,
Right.
and it creates a physical problem called aspergillosis, and it starts growing in your body, where the mold, you inhale it, and all mold spores need is oxygen, nutrients, and water to start growing. So then that mold starts growing in your nasal cavities, in your lungs, etc., and that actually leads to more fatalities and physical problems than even black mold, numerically.
Wow. Right. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to think about, man. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk more with Brandon Faust here about his company, Mold Solutions USA. Plus, I'm going to jump into a recent article from Lawrence Young, chief economist from the National Association of Realtors, as well as our feel-good story of the day. Four brothers are nearing end of an epic 3,000-mile row across the Atlantic to raise money for charity. All that and more here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, consumerqb.com.
Hey, I'm Ken Shamrock, and you're here with Consumer Quarterback Show. And I say, Brandon Rhymes, knock out your competition.
And we're back. Brandon Rhymes, Consumer Quarterback Show, Platinum MVP team, Keller Williams Realty, featuring our listings live on air. We got a hot listing here at 37351 Neighbors Path. This is in Zephyr Hills. Price reduced, owner motivated. We just dropped the price point on about $15,000, I believe. 37351 Neighbors Path in Zephyr Hills. This is a gorgeous property. 6 bedrooms, 4.5 bath, almost 3,500 square feet. You got an open concept floor plan. You have a mother-in-law suite on over an acre of land, 1.2 acres, stone countertops, tile flooring, beautiful property. 37351 Neighbors Path, Zephyr Hills, Florida, Pasco County. And you can see all of our real estate listings at platinummvpteam.kw.com. And every day we like to tell you something positive.
Tell me something good.
All right, so this is our four brothers that are nearing an epic 3,000-mile row across the Atlantic to raise money for charity. So the four brothers, they will set a world record as the first rowing team made entirely of brothers to cross the Atlantic. The adventurous brothers are two sets of twins, 26-year-old Jack and Hamish, and 24-year-olds Yuan and Arthur, friend. They have already raised more than $80,000 for charity since setting off on their epic endurance challenge nearly a month ago. Naming their team the Friendship, they trained for a total of 18 months ahead of their departure. On December 12th, they're expected to finally complete the task. The Talisker Atlantic Challenge race next week and usually consists of 20 to 40 rowing teams, and the boys' latest diary entry claims they were fourth, but gaining fast on third-place holders. The twins each complete 2 hours of rowing sessions before rotating to the cabin for rest and recovery. The brothers are completing the challenge in aid of 3 charities and have so far raised a whopping 82,000 euro, which is almost $1,000 for the cause. All right, there you have it, our feel-good story of the day. We love those. And we got Brandon Faust in the house. And before we get back into that, I want to touch on this article I was just reading from the chief economist of the National Association of Realtors. So It's kind of interesting. So the inflation rate has been coming down. Mortgage rates will also follow. The latest consumer price index of 6.45%, consumer price inflation of 6.45% in December is in its sixth consecutive month of deceleration after the peak of inflation at 9.1% in June 2022. Housing inflation due to rising rents is one of the major items still showing acceleration, but is soon expected to come down as well. Rents increased by 8.35% in December, its highest reading in more than 40 years. Private sector data in recent months have been pointing to near zero rent growth in some major cities, and a robust apartment construction will raise rental vacancy rates. Overall inflation of 6.45% is still above the hourly earnings of 4.6%. Therefore, a good majority of Americans are falling behind in their standard of living. Food prices are up 10.4%, eggs up 60%, a daily reminder of the grind that people are facing. Gasoline has fallen by 1% from a year ago, so basically still the same, though still up 42% from pre-pandemic levels in March 2022. Mortgage rates are expected to drop as well. So, yeah, there's kind of a real estate update, inflation update, but seems like things are heading in the right direction. I just wish the Federal Reserve would stop raising the overnight lending rates because, that they need to pause that to see what the effects are. They keep raising. We don't know what the effects are. You got to let some time pass so that can trickle down. You kind of have that trickle down effect. So, Brandon Faust, what's your reaction to that?
There's always going to be ramifications of whatever move you make, right? You don't always know what it's going to be. So I think that the guys that I've talked to in terms of friends that are buying houses, obviously it's kind of they're being priced out, the rents are going up, and it's a rough situation. So,
yeah.
You gotta look at that. Every decision you make, every action, there's going to be a reaction.
Is he on the mic?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the when you look at the actual rents rising as fast as they are, the mortgage rates where they're at. One of the things that's our saving grace here in Florida, especially in Tampa Bay, is low inventory still.
Right.
There's still only 1.5 months supply of inventory, and that equals a high absorption rate too. You're in like 78% absorption rate, and that's for pretty much Hillsborough, Pinellas, and Pasco together. So that's our saving grace. There's still low inventory, so it's still a good time to sell if you're thinking about selling, and it's still even a good time as well for buyers to buy because there's not as much competition.
Right, and there's a possibility of obviously refinancing once the rates actually go back down again.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. Yeah. You can always kind of change that rate later on.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So give us another success story. I know you go in and you help people, you treat the mold in the home. Tell us, something else that you've seen. Yeah,
there was a lady that I was actually visiting a couple weeks ago. She was pretty desperate in terms of the scenario that she was up against because she had gone to a neurologist. She was a salesperson and was forgetting words and was having trouble with her, actual ability to communicate. Went and saw a neurologist, and she brought her blood work, and sure enough, there had been, toxic molds in her system, Stachybotrys, Chaetomium, and pretty high levels. And she had done air samples in her home. They were fine. She'd even done a mycotoxin sampling of her home, and those came back acceptable. But there was really no other place that she was located in terms of, she worked from home and she slept at home. So the exposure was coming from the house. So I said, okay, well, has there been some sort of water intrusion event? Have you had some sort of flood or anything along those lines? Sure enough, 4 years ago, she had remediation done. It was done by an insurance company and their vendors. So I said, okay, well, let's take a look at that area where they did the remediation. And we did some air samples behind the walls, right? I had an inspector come and do that. And sure enough, they were off the charts, with the toxic molds and Aspergillus penicillium. So I said, look, I know that you're not going to want to hear this, but I think we should open it up. And so that's what we did. And sure enough, there was a full-blown colonization higher up, that was never actually tackled with the, the rainbow of molds in terms of the Stachybotrys, the Chaetomium, all these different molds that are going to release a toxicity. And for her, it was she started crying when she saw what was coming out of her house, because sure enough, she had been exposed and had felt that she was in a safe environment, and she was actually in a biological warfare zone. And we were able to get all of that out and fully clean it up, and then obviously address the duct system and the AC system. But you are dealing with, number one, invisible particles. They're so tiny, right? And on top of that, and sometimes it's hidden behind walls, and you just don't know about it. And some people are more sensitive. So it's, again, the most important test of all is the people test. Are they experiencing things that they have no clue as to where it's coming from, that could correlate with mold toxicity? And a lot of times it's not even one thing that mold causes, because it is going to tax the immune system. So it's like, where are the weaknesses in the immune system? It's going to exacerbate it and make it even worse. So, that was just a great example of being able to help a lady out who, had been suffering for 4 years.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting. I know over the years you've talked about some interesting stories. You did a church that was a big church. It was all over the pews and the Bibles and everything. And so you do commercial, residential. I was going to ask you, if somebody out there is thinking about this, what would be kind of the first thing to look for, the first steps to look at?
Again, the people test. How are they doing in the home? If they leave the house, do they feel better? If they go on vacation, does it seem like it's a better situation, right? And that was, same type of thing with a girl that we just recently helped out. Beautiful house. I mean, absolutely stunning house, like $5 million home, like spiral staircase, incredible and immaculate, right? But the daughter, who's 21, is experiencing health impact. But when they leave, she gets better. They go on vacation, she gets better. So they're like, there's got to be some sort of a situation here at the home. Sure enough, what do? We open up the AC system. It's covered in mold, just hitting her. The one AC system that impacts her room, right, that zone is just covered in mold. When you open it up. So it really is. I think that's the most important test, because unfortunately there's not tests that are 100% reliable in the industry. So you have to build like an indoor air quality profile.
And the best place for folks to find you?
Mold Solutions USA. We actually just got the domain, moldsolutions.com, so we're happy about that. They can also find us there.
Moldsolutions.com. Also, check them out on social media. They're doing a lot of cool stuff on Instagram and Facebook as well.
Absolutely.
All right. Hey, another great show. I want to thank our expert contributors, our producers behind the scenes, Jason Avery, Brandon Faust. And we want you to please go out there and consider committing a random act of kindness. Do something kind for one another. Be a force for good in the community. And we'll see you next time right here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, consumerqb.com.
You've been listening to The Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. Whether it's real estate, consumer, or financial advice, let Brandon call your next play. Call Brandon Rhymes at 813-917-1894. That's 813-917-1894. Online at consumerqb.com. And join us next time for the Consumer Quarterback Show.